Our podcast is a part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,000 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise on the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing the Golden Bachelorette. We're getting back into it. We're going to be doing all 3 episodes that I haven't covered yet. So that's what we're going to be doing. So before we do, let's do some hot goss. It's been a really long time since we've done some hot goss. So let's get into that. So this is actually Golden Bachelorette related. So Guy has apparently broken his silence. We did talk about this, that he had some similar issues to some of the other men on the show, Gil. But he has broken his silence after a past restraining order filed by his ex-wife, Heidi Gansert, has come to light. He says, quote, "This was an unfortunate situation that occurred during an incredibly stressful time for me and my former spouse. It was ultimately resolved when she voluntarily dismissed her request for a protective order." And he wrote this on Instagram on October 10th. "Together, we crafted a resolution that was agreeable to both parties. My ex-wife and I recently asked the court to seal her application for the protective order as we had hoped to maintain privacy for our family. But I know that being in the public eye comes responsibility." So, actually, I don't know if we actually did talk about this, but we'll talk about it here. Guy was accused of domestic violence in October 2021. Court documents obtained by the U.S. Sun earlier in the month. The filing reportedly alleges that the emergency room doctor physically tried to threaten Heidi, who claimed that Guy approached her after she left the gym with a friend, allegedly leaving an item under the rear driver's tire. Guy removed the item, Heidi claimed, before reportedly verbally disparaging her. She further alleged that Guy pointed his finger like a gun and pretended to shoot in her direction. Heidi said the 2021 incident was the first time he allegedly threatened her, but also alleged that Guy would send, quote, stacks of text messages that ended in angry responses. The Sun reports that Heidi opted to dismiss the filing. Us Weekly has reached out to ABC for comment on this. A source also tells us that production learned from Guy during the show's vetting process that an application for a temporary protective order was filed against him from his ex-wife after a disagreement, but confirmed that it was never granted as Heidi voluntarily dismissed the application shortly after the filing. Therefore, he was cleared to continue through the casting process. So that's that. Let's move on to the next piece of hot goss. This is Selling Sunset related. I believe this is about the dramas that have occurred post recent season. So Selling Sunset didn't give viewers the Nicole Young and Emma Hernan confrontations that we were hoping for. Sorry, I had this fling of fly away from me. I don't know if that hit the mic. So the co-stars are telling their respective sides of the story, though, off screen. So Emma went first on October 9th when she finally broke her silence on social media about Nicole, accusing her of having an affair with a married man, if you remember that. She says, quote, "Since I wasn't even given the chance to address these lies, in caps, on screen, I was taking matters into my own hands by sharing the truth. Please swipe to see the receipts showing February 14th while filming. Nicole was told clear as day there was no affair, and she chose to film an entire season spreading lies." Emma provided a text conversation allegedly between her co-star and an unnamed source where Nicole was told the rumors she was spreading weren't true. To clarify, this all was a complete lie intended to diminish my character and reputation for a pathetic and desperate attempt at a storyline. Nobody likes a dumb villain. Hashtag Nicole is trash. Chriselle, who, as we know, has her own issues with Nicole, weighed in weighed in as well, writing true clown in caps behavior. Nicole tried to back her point up on that same day when she shared her own stack of receipts, writing via Instagram stories, quote, "Since we are posting screenshots now, you all should have the full context." The real estate agent uploaded screen grabs of several conversations between her and a woman named Jennifer, who Nicole claimed is the wife of the man Emma allegedly had an affair with off screen. Nicole pointed out that one text chain was from the day after we filmed season 7 finale, when Emma was allegedly confronted by the woman named Jennifer. The other was, quote, "day after this woman and I filmed a scene for season 8 that was never aired, in which Jennifer expressed concern that Emma could sue her for bringing up claims on a show." Nicole also included a final screenshot of Jennifer texting her and Emma in September, which read, quote, "Hey, Nicole and Emma, I have no intention of being in the middle of any issues you may have with one another, so this is the only text I will send, but I want to make one thing clear. As my name was mentioned on an episode of your show relating to an allegation made against Emma. I have never said Emma had an affair. I know for a fact that did not happen." Emma went on to question why Nicole brought up gossip about her, adding Nicole was made aware by that source that the rumors she was spreading about me were absolutely not true. Despite knowing she was spreading lies, she continued to do so on camera over the following months. I am so disappointed that she would do such a thing to another woman. As for Nicole's side of the story, she admitted she wasn't initially comfortable with mentioning the rumors on the show, saying, quote, "I only talked about this because I assumed that Emma knew that the rumor had been circulating. I'd also been told there were going to be certain things that would be shown to support that. For example, at the party featured in the season 7 finale, the woman who brought this information to me confronted Emma. It was a filmed event when both Emma and I were mic'd up. This was not something I just came up with." Nicole apologized to Emma for bringing it to the camera without her knowledge. Quote, "It would undoubtedly have been a smarter decision to not share this information because without any of the context, it looks pretty bad. I also do very strongly and very confidently stand behind the fact that this is information given to me by a credible source." So it's kind of like, I apologize, but at the same time, I'm not lying. Again, I don't mean that as an excuse. I own the fact that I said it, but this is not something I made up, and I'm not a liar. That's unfortunately where I feel like I'm in the defensive position because all the online things that happened before. So that's that. That's the last piece of hot goss. Or not the last piece of hot goss. That's it for that piece. This is going to be pretty quick, this next piece. And then we're going to move on to going to Bachelorette. So Dempsey, this is a spoiler alert, by the way. So if you don't want to be spoiled or respect to the other way, I would skip ahead maybe a minute. So starting now, this is Toe related. This is Dempsey and Statler related, and this has to do with potentially Dempsey's new girlfriend. So she has a new girlfriend. I will post this, what I have here. This is from the Melanated Way. I'm going to post this so you can see it as well. I'll take a post and you can see that. But basically, someone messaged Dempsey and said, "Nothing makes me happier than seeing you happy." And Dempsey responded with, "I'll be even happier next week." And then there's a little more information here, but then Dempsey says, "Mi novia si," which I believe it stands for my girlfriend, I believe. But yeah, it looks like she has a new girlfriend. Great for her. Happy she's happy with someone else that maybe matches her level. I don't know. But yeah, I will post what I have here. Again, it's from the Melanated Way. So if you do want to take a look at it prior to me posting, you can find it on Melanated Way. You can see what she looks like. But yeah, that's basically that. Spoiler over. Let's get into the reason that we are here. So, Golden Bachelorette, Season 1, Episode 4. We're on week 3. So, we're doing some Tai Chi with Charles. Mark is teaching Pascal how to do his own laundry because what's his face is gone now. Um, Greg, right? And then we have a date card, and this is a group date, and we have Jonathan, Pascal, Dan, Charles, Gary, Mark, Girl, Chalk, and Keith. And this date card reads, "Let's bear it all for Joan." So that's what the date card reads, which basically means that the people who are getting the one-on-ones this week is Jordan and Guy. So we're on the way to the date. We arrive at this theater type thing, and we have Caitlin here with us, who we know something's up. And we are going to be doing a little bit of a performance or seeing a performance here. So cue the Chippendales dancers. So we kind of see like the youngins come out and they're doing their thing and the body rolls and stuff like that. And then we have the OG Chippendales dancers coming out. And I'm like, oh my God, I recognize one of them. And for those people who are true crime fans who watched the documentary, I believe there was a documentary, I think it was on Prime, like a couple years back. And there was a Chippendales thing where they kind of talked about the inner workings of the crimes that were going on with Chippendales initially. And I think it was the creator of it, he was murdered, I believe, right? Um, but one of the dancers, the OG dancers, was there, who was like really hot, and he like got married, but he was like cheating on her and all of that. Like they were together for like 20 years or something like that, but he was like really hot. He was there. I saw him and I'm like, oh, because he's such a nice man, but like, yeah. But they're out there, they're all looking good. And obviously the reason to bring on the OGs is like, well, these men here on this date are going to be doing a routine very similar to what we did with Jen's season, and they're going to be doing a routine. The difference is that the guys are not going to be doing like one-on-one things by themselves. They're going to be in a group, and they're going to have like solo numbers. So like in that, so it's going to be fun. It'll be light, you know. And the incredible thing with this too is that this is actually going to be for charity reasons. We're going to be actually spreading awareness to bearing it all to your doctors when it comes to cancer. So this is for Stand Up to Cancer. So obviously that resonates with a lot of people here, with Joan, Mark, Chalk. There's going to be a lot of people who definitely resonate with this in this group. So they're doing a little bit of training, teaching them how to do like the body rolls and stuff like that, right? And then there's something here that actually has, the shampoo, the movie to do the shampoo with the hair and yeah. Then Keith says that he always wanted to be a Chippendales dancer. Hey, whatever makes you happy. I just don't know how like you strive to be. I want to be that one day. You know what I mean? But hey, he wants to wear a little bow tie and, you know, shirtless and have women's attention and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so he said he wanted to do. So they go pick up their outfits, and Gary's like, I'm going to be the nutty professor. And he starts laughing, and he actually sounds like Eddie Murphy. It's great. Keith hopes to, I don't know what I wrote there, but anyway. So the performance basically starts at this point. We have Gaga's Love Games just playing in the background. Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. I want to take a ride on your disco stick. Yeah. So you have that going on in the background. Honestly, Jonathan, out of like this whole entire group, like even, I'll get to Chalk in a minute, but Jonathan, I mean, God damn, he looks incredible. Like, whoa. But, he kind of like rips his pants off, he rips his shirt off, and he's just wearing like a Speedo, and he's just going at it basically. And they're like, he's done this before. And the producer's like, have you done this before? He's like, I've never done this before. I swear, I've never done this before. Sure, sure. Um, then Pascal is next, and he does look very good. He said he works out, so he does his thing. And I think it was Caitlin kind of was like, he kind of has like a DILF look. A dad I'd like to, you know. So then Keith gets a little naughty. Like he was made to do this kind of thing. He's like, let me in, you know. Gary goes next and he is just shaking his booty. He takes his shirt off and it's just like blam. It's so great. Charles is Charles is just someone you want to hug. He's the sweetest. He's so sweet. I can't sexualize him at all because he's just the sweetest man. But yeah, he does his thing and he has fun. He's like, I did it. Chalk. Okay, no, Chalk looks really good. And when his shirt comes off, he looks really good. And then he starts like thrusting in her face. And I'm like, Jesus. And that's basically that. That's it. They did it and it went well for that. Then it's the after party and she tells the men that, Joan was diagnosed on February 14th on Valentine's Day. Are you kidding? Ugh. Chalk tells her that, stand up to cancer is close to him because of his mom. And she tells him that she needs to see more out of Pascal. I think that's Pascal that she was talking to. And she said, I need to see more out of him. But Keith does do a little more like routine for her on his time with her. And Gary calls his son to tell him, guess what I did today? I'm sure your son would love to hear. But he's like, whoa. Mark said that he struggled with the idea of moving on from his wife after her passing. And he wanted to, he kind of said he wanted to kind of quit in the beginning, not kind of do this. Like I don't think he was fully ready to do this, but he soldiered on through. He's happy he stayed. And Joan ends up giving the group date rose to Chalk. So that's that. That's it for the group date. Let's move on to the next day for one of the one-on-ones. Oh, but wait, Chalk is crying. And you're like, oh no. Now, I think I talked about this in the last episode where I was like, oh no, I'm really scared. I see Chalk's crying and it kind of clued into me. Then I'm like, oh no. But yes, his mom did pass away that morning. He's talking to her aide about kind of what happened, and she explains that, she wasn't feeling well. And she, passed away. I think George is the dog's name. She passed away with George beside her. So yeah, it was really sad to hear. We unfortunately didn't get to see her in later episodes. Hint, hint, we'll get to that. But we did meet her initially with the submission video, and she's like a very lovely woman, so we're very sad for him and his family. But he says that I couldn't have asked for a better mom. I'm trying not to cry. That yeah, that's I felt it. And it obviously makes you think about really couldn't ask for a better mom. And yeah, I really feel for it. And like Joan says, it's always hard to lose a mom, no matter how old you are. And even though it gets to a certain point, it's going to be inevitable. But it's nothing like losing your mom. But he goes to the men and he tells them that my mom passed away. Everyone's very affected by this. We have some people crying, some people feeling bad for him, just rallying around him. And he says, I am going to leave. He needs to get back home. He needs to be there to deal with arrangements and stuff like that. And yeah, so he says he doesn't need to leave. And yeah, the men are, like I said, are very emotional. Jonathan in particular is kind of saying, I know kind of how you feel. He lost his mom at the beginning of the pandemic. So he understands that. And Joan is on the way to her date with Jordan, not realizing that, yeah, this isn't going to be great. But um, she says, to me, watching this, her being so happy about the day before and kind of really, and probably in the back of her mind, the reason she's feeling so happy is partly because of Chalk and kind of seeing that, like, that history kind of repeating itself from the prior year with Gary and her. He had this amazing one-on-one date with Joan the night before, and he's feeling good, and he's heading to, the house to go on his next date, and there's Joan waiting outside for him, very similarly to when she gets there, there is Chalk waiting out there to talk to her, and they're sitting on the exact same bench where she sat with Gary a year prior to tell him that she had to leave. And here it is with Chalk sitting here on this bench with her, telling her he has to leave. It's insane, the parallels between these two situations. But um, she said she feels good about Chalk. The library was about her, and she gets to the mansion, and he's there waiting for her, like I mentioned. And they go sit on the bench, as I mentioned, and he tells her his mom has passed away that morning, and he says, I need to go and check on her husband and on George. And you're not, like, you think that this is it, that he's leaving, he's not coming back. But then you realize actually it's been really left up in the air whether or not he is coming back or not. Whereas with Joan, she's like, I'm out, I gotta go, my daughter needs me, I gotta go, and whatever. So it's very different. And the reason why I say this, or what happens later, but we'll get to it. But obviously she gets it that he needs to go, he needs to be there for his family, but obviously it's saddening for her and not knowing whether or not he's coming back. So Jordan has his date, and we didn't see his date card, but he tells us his date card said, I want a love that melts my heart. And he's like, well, hope is not ice skating. So um Joan says she's going to try to be present in her date with Jordan because obviously she's being affected by Chalk leaving, but she doesn't want that to affect her date with Jordan. I'm going to be fair. So we get to the date, and lo and behold, even though Jordan said he doesn't want to be ice skating because he doesn't know how to skate, they're going ice skating. But it's so beautiful in there. Like, I want to know, like, I wouldn't want that either because I do not do this. I've never skated. Well, no, that's not true. I don't know how to ice skate. The last time I ice skated was I was 7 or 8. So, no thanks. But it's beautiful in there. And when they're skating, having fun, he just falls right on his butt hard. And Joe's like laughing. And she has to end up like pulling him around the rink because he doesn't know. He's like, this is nice. I like this. So we kind of get a little bit of, they sit down and we stop the ice skating and we get a little bit of history on him and where he comes from. And he said that he met his ex in college. They had 3 kids. It was good till it wasn't. And I'm suspecting, just based on what he kind of said here, is he did mention, I think there was infidelity, but he doesn't say exactly on whose part, but he kind of makes it seem like it was on her part. Um, so he kind of said him and him and her, split. He ended up getting an apartment with all 3 of his kids. So it was all 4 of them kind of living in this one apartment, um, in a 2-bedroom apartment at that. And then we hear all of a sudden, just out there in the distance, we start hearing, I can't fight this feeling any longer. And I'm like, wait. I was like, Whoa! REO Speedwagon is on the stage right now singing "I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore." I've forgotten what I started fighting for. I you did yourself, Bachelor. What is happening? It's so cool. And see, this is the thing. You don't see stuff like this on the regular version because half of the people who probably ends up on that show don't even know who these people are, what the song is in the first place, which by the way, you're incorrect. But like you have like when you have the older people, you have like this stuff I love. Like it's a little like older for me because I'm a 90s baby, but I grew up listening to this stuff. You know, I was the kid who loved listening to the oldies and stuff. So I was listening to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. That was my jam. I still do. So it's just like I'm fangirling. I'm like, oh my God. This is great. And yeah, I just wrote down, holy shit. And Jordan is geeking out right now. He says he loves them. He knows all of their songs. Like, when he like, loved them as a kid. So he's like loving this right now. And then Joan gives him the rose, and there we go. Now we have the date with Guy. It's that turn now. It's the first pretty small date, nothing too crazy. So it won't take us too long to kind of get through. It's kind of a very low key date in comparison, but um he kind of talks about the fact that, when he had his divorce, he withdrew. Did you? We just talked about earlier how much he withdrew, y'all. We're going to be doing kind of a very simple date, as I mentioned, at her place, just cooking. And he doesn't really know how to do much of this. When she asks him, can you zest a lemon? Do you know how to zest a lemon? He didn't really know how to zest said lemon. And I'm like, really? I mean, I haven't zested many lemons in my day, but I know how to zest. But he doesn't know how to do that. He's really struggling with the zesting, which I feel like is the most easiest part of what is being done right now. She ends up trading with him because she needs that zested lemon. And because not only that, but she's zesting lemons, but also using the lemons too. So it's like, I need you to hurry up so I can use said lemons. And then they talk about family dinners as well and kind of how they kind of are pretty much in sync with that. And, she has, Sunday dinners are important. They're mandatory. They have to be there. Sometimes she cooks, sometimes they cook, sometimes, but all of everyone cooking kind of together. Sometimes she hosts, they host. Like that's important for her. And the family is very important for him as well. Then they move on to do some dessert making, which are going to be making some cupcakes, which looked incredible. Yes, please. Meanwhile, while she is there with that date, we kind of are back at the mansion, and Mark is talking to Kelsey and Joey about how great this time has been, how grateful that he was here, even though he maybe wasn't fully ready to do this. And Kelsey's like, well, I hope we see you soon, maybe at a hometown. Spoiler alert. Anyway. But back at the date, we are eating the food, and we talk about the divorce for him, and when they became semi-empty nesters, he said, things kind of changed, which I think that's kind of unfortunately a tale of his time. Um, and they, tried to do some counseling, tried to make it work, but she said she was done. She had it. He said he withdrew. She, yeah, he withdrew from that, and it kind of withdrew him on all kinds of things in terms, especially with moving on. I think it's been really difficult, which again, I mean, this would have been filmed just earlier this year, and probably just a few months back now, because from the timeline of what we understand here is that this was being filmed in June, so just this year, and he's only been single or separated for about 3 years, 3-ish years, 3-4 years. So, yeah, takes time. Anyway, Joan gives him the rose, And he's like, I feel like I'm just secreting emotion. And that's why I said, did you have to say secreting? Like, I'm starting to understand. I know people were like, oh, I hate that word. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is actually a really gross word. Because then, wait, are some people like even when he uses the term secreting? Sorry, guys, bear with me. When he's using that term, and we have people like, I don't know, someone psycho, does that mean they don't secrete emotions? Just like some people don't, uh, I'm gonna come off the topic, but do you see where I'm headed with this? Ugh. But anyways, that's it for that date. We are heading into the cocktail party. And she tells the men that her mom is doing a lot better than she was prior. And Joan talks to Pascal, and he says that, he tries not to be aggressive during group dates, kind of hangs back a little bit because of that. But she tells him straight up and says, a little more effort would be great. You know, like she feels like him not being very aggressive or, waiting his turn kind of thing, um, is making her feel like he's not interested in her. So she's like, a little more, please. And thank you. Then we eat some macaroons. And Jonathan has a Joan a Cheerios box for her. And they just sit there and eat some Cheerios and talk about like their morning routines and how that can kind of work with each other. Mark gives her a little gift. It's a toy fire truck to remember his performance by. And Keith does a beach picnic style type thing, but the convo with him is really awkward, like really awkward. She asks him like basic questions like, what do you picture a day of your retirement to look like? And he can't answer the question. He's like, well, I was thinking, what? I haven't really thought about that before. Never? Like, you're close to retirement. Like, hell, I'm 33 and I have another 33 years left to go or so. And I've been thinking about what my retirement's going to look like, you know? Like, what? Anyway, um, so he he thought that, well, that didn't go so well for him. Um, which no, and it's, what, a really damn big miracle that he actually got a rose that night, but let's continue. Then, as Joan is going back to inside, we just hear Joan, and she turns around, and it's Chalk. He's here. It's like Disney. It's like we're charming. Hey, Joan. And she turns around, and yeah, it's so romantic. And when he's back, and she's so happy to see him, and he asks her, you're wearing a ring the other day, and I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what is that ring? And it's actually her wedding ring from John. And she wears on her right hand. She just doesn't really want to part with it yet. I think she's kind of holding on to it, which is understandable. And listen, it's not like they divorced. She lost her husband. It was literally death Still's part, unfortunately. And I think it's okay for you to wear your ring in a situation like that. Wear that ring. He's with you. And Chalk says as much. He's like, don't ever feel like you shouldn't wear it. I'm okay with you wearing it. Wear the hell out of that thing. I think again, Chalk out of anyone would understand that as well because, he's lost his wife to death. So yeah. But now it is the rose ceremony. And let's go through that. So we have Pascal, Jonathan, Mark, and Keith. So going home is Gil, Dan, Gary, and Charles. I mean, y'all, I knew Charles wasn't gonna win or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I really love him and his face makes me happy. So I'm really sad to see him go. And Gary's also like sweet and I love him too. And it's so sad. But that's it. Like we have 7 guys with our 4 here that just mentioned, we also have Chalk, Jordan, and Guy. So those are our 7. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of this episode. So the next episode that we're going to be talking about will be Golden Bachelorette, episode 5. So that's the week prior to Hometowns. We're going to be doing that, and that will be the next episode that you get. But that is it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there. And you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.